By the end of the first week, millions of people would stop sleeping. Scientists would cancel projects they'd worked on for decades. Entire countries would begin preparing for something no one understood. All because, one morning, people looked up. Every morning begins the same way. Millions of alarms ring, coffee machines come to life, kids get ready for school, airplanes climb into the morning sky. Most of us never stop to look up, because we already know what we'll see. A blue sky, a familiar sun, and a universe that has looked almost unchanged for billions of years. At least, that's what everyone believed. Then, everything changed. Overnight, without warning, Earth had grown a crown, a colossal ring of ice and rock now wrapped around the entire planet. It wasn't a dream. It wasn't an illusion. It was real. And for the first time in human history, every person on Earth was looking at the same impossible sky. Within minutes, every social media platform was overwhelmed. Live streams reached millions of viewers. News stations canceled regular programming. Scientists abandoned their breakfasts. Telescopes around the world turned toward the sky. Nobody had predicted this. Nobody could explain it. The greatest mystery in human history had appeared before breakfast. At first, nobody was afraid. How could they be? The rings were breathtaking. Sunrises became masterpieces. Sunsets looked like scenes from another galaxy. Tourists booked flights just to see the new sky. Artists called it the greatest source of inspiration in human history. For one brief moment, it felt like the universe had given humanity a gift. But the universe rarely gives gifts without asking for something in return. Those beautiful rings weren't just changing the sky, they were changing Earth itself, the climate. The oceans, wildlife, space travel, even the length of our seasons. Humanity had spent thousands of years wondering what it would be like to live beneath rings like Saturn's. Now, we were finally about to find out. Because beauty can change the world. And sometimes, it can threaten it. Humans have a remarkable ability to adapt. What once stopped the world slowly became part of everyday life. Morning commutes continued, schools reopened, markets filled, children who had never known a ringless sky grew up believing this was simply how Earth looked. But the rings never looked the same. Where you lived determined what you saw. Near Earth's equator, the sky was dominated by enormous rivers of ice. Closer to the poles, the rings rested low along the horizon. Every latitude became its own window into space. Night itself changed. The rings reflected sunlight long after sunset. Entire landscapes glowed beneath a silver sky. For the first time, millions of people could walk through the night without ever feeling completely surrounded by darkness. Humanity embraced its new world. Artists found endless inspiration. Architects redesigned skylines. Cities held festivals beneath the glowing heavens. A generation of children could no longer imagine Earth without rings. The impossible had become beautiful. But while the world celebrated, scientists kept asking different questions. The rings were beautiful, yet beauty does not obey the laws of emotion. It obeys the laws of physics, and the numbers were becoming difficult to ignore because those rings were far heavier than anyone had imagined, and gravity was already beginning to reshape Earth. At first, nobody noticed. The changes were small, easy to dismiss: a slightly higher tide, an unusual migration, a harvest that arrived a little too early. Alone, none of it seemed important. Together, they were the beginning of something much larger. The rings weren't alive. They weren't choosing to change Earth. They were simply massive. Trillions upon trillions of tons of ice, dust, and rock, all exerting gravity. Weak on its own, relentless over time. Oceans are incredibly sensitive. Tiny changes in gravity create enormous movements of water. Coastlines that had remained stable for centuries slowly began to change. Some beaches disappeared, others expanded. Ocean currents started taking unfamiliar paths. But gravity wasn't the only problem. The rings blocked sunlight. Every day, enormous shadows crossed parts of Earth. Some regions lost minutes of daylight, others lost hours. Plants noticed first, then farmers. Then entire ecosystems. Earth's seasons depend on sunlight. Change the sunlight, and you change everything. Climate models began producing results. Scientists didn't want to believe. Rainfall patterns shifted, growing seasons changed, entire ecosystems started moving. The danger wasn't limited to Earth. Space itself had become far more complicated. Satellites, space stations, future moon missions. Every launch now had to navigate a planet surrounded by billions of fast-moving pieces of ice and rock. Space had become crowded. Humanity had believed the rings were merely decoration. They weren't. They were changing. The oceans, the climate, the sky, space itself. And this was only the beginning. So could any of this actually happen? Could Earth really wake up one morning surrounded by gigantic rings? The short answer is no, at least not overnight. But surprisingly, Earth having rings isn't as impossible as it sounds. Planetary rings aren't solid disks, they're enormous collections of countless individual pieces. Tiny grains of dust, chunks of ice, rocks the size of mountains, every piece orbiting independently. Together, they create one of the most beautiful structures in the solar system. Scientists believe Saturn's rings formed when one or more icy moons wandered too close. Saturn's gravity tore them apart. Instead of crashing together again, the fragments spread into orbit. Over millions of years, they became the magnificent rings we see today. Earth's history followed a different path. About 4.5 billion years ago, a Mars-sized world collided with the young Earth. That impact created our moon. Any remaining debris either fell back to Earth, escaped into space, or became part of the moon itself, leaving our planet without permanent rings. Could Earth ever gain rings? In theory, yes, if a large moon-dot asteroid or icy comet were torn apart at exactly the right distance, some of that material could form temporary rings. But the chances are extraordinarily small, and any rings Earth formed would probably survive for only thousands or millions of years, a brief moment on the cosmic clock. This isn't just science fiction. Astronomers study planetary rings every single day. They reveal how planets form, how moons evolve, and how gravity shapes entire solar systems. By understanding rings, we understand worlds. Earth probably won't grow rings anytime soon, but imagining it teaches us something remarkable, because sometimes asking impossible questions leads us to very real answers. To understand why Earth has no rings, we have to travel back more than 4.5 billion years, long before oceans, before continents, before life itself. Earth was a violent world, still under construction. The early solar system was nothing like the peaceful place we know today. Planets constantly collided. Asteroids struck without warning. Entire worlds were destroyed, while others were born. Gravity was building planets, one collision at a time. Then, one impact changed everything. A young world, roughly the size of Mars, slammed into Earth. The collision released more energy than billions of nuclear explosions. Entire oceans of molten rock were blasted into space. For a brief moment, Earth probably did have something that looked remarkably like rings, not icy rings like Saturn's, but an enormous ring of molten rock, orbiting our newborn planet. It was spectacular, but it wouldn't last. Gravity had another plan. Instead of remaining a ring, the orbiting debris slowly came together, piece by piece, collision by collision. Over time, Earth's greatest companion was born, our moon. Saturn tells a different story. Much of its ring material orbits inside a region called the Roche limit. There, gravity prevents the debris from joining together into a moon. Earth's debris formed farther away, where gravity allowed it to become something much larger. Earth didn't lose the chance to have rings. It traded them for something far more valuable. The moon stabilizes our planet's tilt, controls the tides, influences our climate, and may have helped create the conditions that allowed life to flourish. Without our moon, we might never have been here to imagine rings at all. Saturn's rings are among the most recognizable sights in our solar system. But what looks like one enormous structure is actually billions of separate worlds, each piece following its own path around the planet. Together, they create one of nature's greatest masterpieces. Despite how they appear, Saturn's rings are not solid. They are made of countless individual particles, some no larger than grains of sand, others as big as entire mountains. Most of them are separated by surprisingly large distances. If you stood inside the rings, they would look more like a scattered swarm than a solid disk. Almost everything you see is water ice, pure, brilliant, ancient ice mixed with tiny amounts of rock and dust. That's why Saturn's rings shine so brightly. They reflect sunlight like billions of frozen mirrors, drifting through space. Hidden among the rings are tiny moons. Astronomers call them shepherd moons. Their gravity quietly shapes the rings, opening gaps, creating waves, guiding billions of icy particles like invisible cosmic gardeners. But Saturn's rings won't last forever. Every second, thousands of kilograms of icy material fall into the planet. Scientists call it ring rain. Slowly, almost invisibly, Saturn is losing its greatest treasure. One day, the rings may disappear completely. Saturn is more than 4 billion years old, yet its rings may be surprisingly young. Some estimates suggest they formed only a few 100 million years ago. If that's true, humanity exists during an incredibly fortunate moment, a tiny window in cosmic history when Saturn still wears its magnificent crown. Saturn's rings remind us that beauty and science are never separate. Every icy fragment follows the same laws of gravity that shape galaxies, build planets, and guide our own world through space. They are more than decoration. They are a living record of how the universe creates and transforms entire worlds. We began with a simple question: what if Earth had rings like Saturn? But somewhere along the journey, the question changed. It was never really about the rings. It was about understanding why our world is the way it is. Our planet isn't perfect, but it is remarkably balanced. A stable moon, gentle tides, predictable seasons, liquid water, a protective atmosphere, millions of tiny coincidences working together to create a world where life could thrive. Every planet tells a different story. Mercury speaks of survival, Venus of runaway change, of a world that lost its rivers. Saturn wears its history as magnificent rings, and Earth became home. Every day, humanity asks impossible questions. Could another Earth exist? How do planets form? Are we alone? Every answer begins with curiosity, and every discovery begins with someone willing to imagine. We imagined a world beneath impossible skies, but perhaps the most extraordinary thing was never above us. It was our ability to wonder, somewhere among the hundreds of billions of stars, there may be worlds with skies more extraordinary than anything we imagined until we find them. We'll keep looking up because every great discovery begins with a question.